You are listening to an exclusive interview on Bass Musician Magazine. The interview starts now.
Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of chatting with bassist Jon Von Boehm.
Hey everybody.
A lot of you might know a little bit, or you might feel like you know Jon already, because Vuyani Wakaba did a really excellent job at an interview in our April 2015 issue. He did touch base with Jon about a lot of Jon's journey and how he got started. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel, because it is such an excellent interview, I recommend you check that out. And what I want to do is I want to pick up with Jon and kind of get an update, because time flies, and Jon is one of those bassists that does not just rest on his laurels. He has been super busy. So bring us up to date, Jon. What's been happening since 2015?
Wow, since 2015. Well, that record actually opened up a lot of doors for me. It kind of put me on the map. My first release put me on the map. And it actually made me quite busy. It got me busier as a sideman. Before I knew it, 3.5 years by now have gone by? About 3 years have gone by since that record. And I kind of lost track, like, hey, I'm still an artist and I still need to do something. And some people started asking, hey, where's the next record coming? And I was like, well, maybe I better sit down and put a few months aside and start writing. So somewhere among the busy schedule and trying to juggle things, I started writing it. And the writing process for this record I probably did about 3 months of writing and just trying to focus. And, you come up with an idea and you don't like it, so you scrap it and you come back to something. And after about 3 months, I had a handful of songs that I was pretty happy with. And then we just went to town from there.
And this record is titled Ortis?
Yes. It means rebirth, coming forth, rising. Among the busy schedule, life things were happening, and, life happened. Things got I don't want to say things got rough, but, I had to really evaluate what was going on in life. And when I started to do this record, when the recording process happened, I still didn't have a title. And when the recording process started, I felt like I was coming out of this rough patch, if you will, and Ortis seemed like an appropriate fit. And actually, the cover photo is from the last great American solar eclipse.
Well, and I understand you're somewhat of an astronomy buff.
A little bit, yeah. I find I've got 2 or 3 telescopes in the house, and I'm always in the back patio looking at stuff. And you can see by the titles, I'm kind of a nerd.
Yeah, anybody that could casually say I have 2 or 3 telescopes,
right,
goes a little beyond I look at the sky when I'm outside kind of.
Yeah, I got one right here. There's a couple downstairs.
There you go.
I geek out on that a lot.
It's a great thing. I myself have a little bit of a background. One of my majors in college was physics, so nice. I did astrophysics.
Cool.
And we had the virtue of a great telescope at the college where I went, and so we were taking photographs of Saturn.
Right.
And it was just amazing, and we learned how to develop film and all that kind of cool stuff. But I think that more than anything, the inspiration, the placing yourself as a small speck of dust in the universe, ties in with a creative process that maybe has inspired mankind to create songs, Native American kind of things, being one with nature, and in so many places. If you think of times before all the light contamination, looking up and seeing all the stars, it would make you want to say something.
I remember the first time I accidentally saw Saturn through a telescope. And it was like, even though thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people have seen it in photographs before me, bumping into it through a telescope by accident. What's that?
Yeah.
And I could see the rings. And it was a time in its orbit where it was tilted. The rings were tilted in a way you could actually see through the rings.
Yeah.
And the pole was more facing me. And it was like, holy cow. I was like, I discovered it. It was a great feeling. But yeah, so yeah, when I'm with these titles, when the song was finished, that's usually when I name it, and I'd say, oh, that sounds kind of cool. That song, let's call it this, and it just happened to be all these, not all, but a lot of astronomy
references.
Titles.
Yeah,
references.
With something titled like "They Exist."
Right. It does. And I thought like the bridge section in that song was pretty spacey, so I went with it. I went with "They Exist," And a lot of times I'll actually have to do a title really quick on my DAW to save it, and that just eventually never changes, and that stays as a title. So yeah,
this falls kind of you're kind of a blend of music where you've got jazz fusion, kind of a rock, kind of all merged in. But something special about this CD is also that you collaborated with another bassist. You had Vujani playing on a couple of tracks.
Yeah, the first record actually had 12 or 13 guests, and this one, the logistics for that, even to play out live, the logistics was too difficult. I would have to have at least a 6-piece to really make it sound. So this time I wanted to do a trio piece, but the song Vujani played on, I had this idea. I was bouncing around with a 5-string, and I'm not much of a 5-string player, but he is a 5- and 6-string player. And I was like, this works really good for him. And I knew his sound, and I knew his sound and my sound would mesh really well. So I continued to write the song Soweto with him in mind. And I think he knocked it out of the park. I thought his tone is just huge. Way to go, Vujani.
There we go. Just kind of mentioning other musicians, John Gallo on guitar, Michael Green on drums, and then you had a couple of tracks with vocals with Jesse
Brassfield. Yeah. Mike I've been playing with for quite a while, the drummer Michael. I actually had him produce this. He produced, mixed, and mastered it. He's like my go-to guy. Okay. Not only that, he's one of my favorite drummers in town. He's a very melodic player, and it's kind of balanced. I didn't want this to sound like a prog rock record. So he comes from this very Tony Williams kind of vibe, and it's sort of like evened that out for me, and I needed his melodic playing. Gallo, he's a new cat in Nashville. He's from Detroit, and he came into a rehearsal the first time to rehearse some of my old material, and he had it nailed. His feel is incredible. I didn't have to tell him to do anything. It was just boom. I was like, yep, this is the guy who has to be on the record. And with Jessie, the vocalist, she's in a country duo, no less, called Sweet Honey. And I've been working with them for about 2 years now. And she actually got inspired by the day of the eclipse and did the vocals that day.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Well, and it's one of the great things when they talk about real estate and they say location, location, location. When it comes to music, Nashville is one of those bees nests of musicians. And in the good and bad, it's great because you have a lot of resources to reach out to when you're looking for musicians. On the downside, it can also be very competitive because there's a lot of musicians. So
the biggest thing that helped me with that is finally realizing that my own voice on the instrument is the most valuable thing that I have. Being all things to all people is great, and it works for a lot of musicians. For me, it didn't work. And once I said, this is my voice, this is what I sound like, this is actually my product. Once I did that, I was able to really, I've carved out a niche for myself, where people are like, hey, there's that guy, he does this thing, call him for that.
Yeah.
If I could tell anybody that is thinking about moving here, a musician, especially that's wanting to do the sideman thing, really think about what your strengths are and exploit those things and make that your product.
As you mentioned sound, in the evolution, it's instruments and gear that get us to our sound. So tell us a little bit what you're currently using to get that characteristic.
My main basses are FBB Bassworks. It's a luthier in Maryland. Actually, those two, these four strings right over here,
Gotcha.
right there. Those are my two main basses. I've been playing those for a while. Matt Schmill's the builder. I've been working with him for maybe 12 years now. So yeah, he's just a great builder, and he's my go-to guy for sure. Amplifiers, I have been using the Phil Jones bass stuff, and after years of playing through everything, for me, they're just the best. It's like I've never been in a situation with those amps where I haven't had what I needed, and it's always there. And I'm a DR string user too. I've been using DR strings now for a little while.
Nice.
And that's put a whole new lease on life for my playing. I love those strings.
Now, they have a wide variety of strings. Is there something special that...
I'm using the lowriders. I use the 40 to 95s.
Gotcha.
Man, the feel of these strings, the tensions, do it for my playing for sure. I can set up the way I need to. They last a long time, too. And I use the extender key quite a bit on my 4-string, the Hipshot extender keys. And these stay in tune quite well. Yeah, I flip that thing like crazy. If I play someone's bass and that extender key is not in there, I have no idea what I'm doing, it feels like.
And at this point, looking ahead, because again, you just have this Ortis just dropped March 16th, and so it's out there and available. What's coming up in the future? I know that bassists like sharks never stop moving.
Yeah, I'm juggling a lot of different things right now. I'm playing in 5 or 6 different acts right now.
Oh.
And then this Monday, we're going into rehearsals with the band for my thing to start rehearsing Ortis and get out there and start playing. So, yeah. And also I'm working with another act called the 3 a.m. You can find us at 3ammusic.com. It's a drum and bass and saxophone thing, and lots of pedals are involved. The sax player actually uses more pedals than I do, but lots of loops. It's a very groove oriented type of project. But nice. And on top of all of that, I'm working with a lot of other artists as well.
Very cool. And if people want to follow and find out what you're doing, maybe see if they can hear you, is jonvonboehm.com the best place to look?
Yes, that would be the best place to find me. Dates, show dates, music, videos, it's all there. Stores there as well.
Very cool. Well, Jon, we appreciate you taking some time out of a busy schedule. It's great to see that you're busy. I mean, with musicians, busy is good.
Yes.
It's a kind of problem that many of them would like to have.
Yeah, indeed.
And it is such an honor to be able to share in the creative process. And as you continue to move on, starting with Vujani's interview and kind of finding about your past, having our staff writers, I know
Ty.
Yeah. Ty reviewed one of your CDs as well. You know, they've been impressed.
Let me just say, Ty has been hounding me for like 3 years now to get this record done, and I finally finished it.
Well,
he was always on me. He was like the little voice. Where is it? Where is it? So yeah, definitely cool on Ty.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate you sharing with us. Don't be a stranger. Keep us in the loop of any new projects and things that are happening. Folks, you've had this update. Jon Von Boehm coming to you live via Skype here on Bass Musician Magazine.
Thanks for bassing out with us here on BassMusicianMagazine.com.